Hey, Project Goof here, and today I'm going to show you the pivot backstab. I feel this and the roll backstab are the main ones you need before you can start experimenting on your own. This will be my last guide in the series, so buckle up. So the pivot itself is the movement. It's pretty straightforward, literally. You run forward to your opponent, and just before you get to their back, depending on their movement, so if they're coming forward a little bit, you pull back on the stick sooner or later. Once you pull back, your character will do a 180 turn, and then you can press R1 to get the backstab. And the 180 turn also stops you from doing a running attack. Now I'm going to show you some variations of what causes what animations, what causes what to fail, and then we can move on to some PvE. Let's target this step by step. I sprint up to my opponent. I turn around 180 degrees and press R1. The 180 degree turn stops me from doing a running attack due to the fast movement of it. What causes a running attack? Too much curvature in the 180. As you've seen there, I put too much curve on it, so I did a running attack. Hold your shield up when doing so. With one-handed weapons such as the dagger, if you go for the pivot without blocking, will cause you to do the "I forgot I left my kids at Walmart" animation. This is the animation that blocking helps prevent. The little skid animation you are witnessing is what happens when a pivot is done incorrectly, and can cause you to take counter damage, and you don't want that. So blocking reduces the chances of getting that skid mark animation, which will hinder your backstab attempts. You can actually get the backstab without the shield, but for this guide I'm going to show you how to do it with the shield, because without it, it can be a little bit tricky and especially frustrating for you learners out there. Dark Souls 3 works in mysterious ways. Outside of this blue potato chip is the false grab box. It'll get you the animation and a sword to the face. Try and stay within it. This red line symbolizes the distance for the grab. It looks like a lot, but it only takes 2 steps to walk out of a backstab. Due to the 2-hit confirmation, this is nothing. To a stationary opponent, it looks like a lot. Now you've got acquainted with how the backstab works, let's jump into it. So with PvE, you want to focus on movement and the pivot itself, so the 180 turn and the backstab, not so much on the spacing and timing of it, because that's going to be all down to PvP. Let me show you the kind of enemies that are good for practicing on. Let's start with the Lothric Knight. The Lothric Knight is excellent, it has good tracking, so you can still perform the pivot on him, and in this stance right now he mostly does the poke, which is good for pivots. The later game enemies for practicing the pivot are the Aldrich Faithfuls. Their tracking isn't the best, but you just want to get the motion and the 180 down. You're not really focusing on timing here. Now we're done with the PvE, we can jump straight into the PvP. The Ultra Greatsword horizontal variant. I'm going to show you 3 different clips and 3 different timings to show you how much time you actually have to get the backstab on these babies. So this first clip here is to show you how much time you actually have before you get the trade BS. I bet out the first swing, I doodle around a bit here, then I run in, pivot, grab that booty. With a German opponent, I'm Australian, there's going to be a lot of latency. Latency equals hardness. So with latency it's a lot harder to get the pivot backstab. But someone from Australia backstabbing someone from Germany, this just proves that it doesn't matter how far away you are, you can still get that backstab. It's all about timing, effort, and prediction. This next clip is a tradeless pivot backstab. This one's a bit faster, so it looks a bit more wonky. Due to my opponent being in Germany, they've already swung, so on my screen the weapon clips through me, but in reality it didn't on their screen. Allows me to still get the backstab. This is perfect timing with latency. At the end I'll be facing an Australian opponent, so you can see what it's like without latency. Recap. I run up, bait the first swing, run up again, 180 and backstab. Vertical ultra great swords, in my opinion, are one of the hardest things to backstab with latency. But there are techniques to do it. So my friend, They're locked and loaded, ready to swing at the first sign of movement. Like any PvP player, this is how you want to play with ultras. You want to react and attack. So, we're going to mimic this. Every slight movement I make, every breath I take, they'll be watching me. Pay attention to my movement. It's a feint. I run up, I run back to simulate an attack. And then on the second, I actually run up, 180, grab that booty. So this stuff is guaranteed with latency. And you can pull it off without latency. So the thing is, if I teach you how to do it with latency, then you're going to be able to pull it off whenever you want to pull it off. Just like the Ultra Greatsword, I bait the first swing, I move in, I 180 and grab the booty. Greatswords have a lot of pressure capability if used right. Stationary isn't the best for greatswords, so let's show them in other areas. Backstabs work off confidence. Pressure weapons have a lot of confidence. So after the second swing, I know it was my time to strike. I run in, I 180 and grab that booty. A backpedaler's never going to give the booty, because they're too shy. Let's talk momentum trades. So if your opponent is at jogging speed locked onto you, then you need to be at sprinting speed for the most part, and the easiest, most consistent way of getting that backstab would be to sprint to make up the speed difference to get behind them. And because they're locked onto you, you can move them with your axis. Because they're just moving forward, they're just trying to hit you, and you're manipulating their movement. So you can actually make the pivot easier for yourself by manipulating their positioning, because they're locked onto you. You can also get the pivot when they're not locked onto you. You just need to put a bit more prediction into it and their positioning and calculate the latency and all that jazz. See how I kind of slingshot off them here. I go forward, I pull back, they move forward in front of me as I move back. We're kind of like trading positions, kind of like some Goku teleporty attack thing. I don't know anime. I personally really like glaives. They are a good defense and a good offense, and they have a really nice running attack in my opinion. So standing and chase downs, they're really good, and in gang situations they're hella hard to beat, because one hit from a glaive and then another hit from an ultra and you're done. It's just how it is. So learning how to deal with the glaive is really good for these gang situations. I'm going to take you through some clips. Your bread and butter for your defending opposition: bait the first hit, backstab the second. If it's low latency, or you've nailed the latency and worked it out, you can get a trade-free backstab on the first swing. Trading momentum is really good for those people that want to trade. So you see me clip through there, it looked a bit wonky. So actually I didn't clip through them on their screen. I moved around to their right, but I had to commit to this backstab. I had to go in there and grab it. So they're coming towards you, they're committed to trade a blow for blow. They're not expecting to trade a hit for a backstab. The split leaf is hell for a lot of players. That combo does serious damage, but if you can backstab them, you can put the hurt on them. So the trick is to go in on the animation where it has no damage, which is the second spin of the split leaf. So I bait the combo. I run in, feint an attack. They charge up the combo. I run in just as it's about to go over their head. I pivot, 180, and grab that booty. Pivots are best used when trading momentum. So that means if your opponent is jogging, you sprint. If they're sprinting, you jog. But with stationary targets, it's much harder. So your feints are got to be a lot faster. With closer range weapons, you really got to be on your toes. I'm at a pretty far distance. This is enough to give my friend reaction timing. So my actual feint is to spin in a circle like a ballerina. And then I go in, I get a trade BS, but because I already initiated the backstab, I get the booty. Let's look at this when it isn't slowed down to 25%. Just look at how graceful Turtle Torius is. His true calling, to be a ballerina. So this is a momentum trade. They're jogging, I'm sprinting. I quickly 180 as I get to their feet and press R1 and I get the backstab. The straight sword, possibly the best weapon class in the game. It's very versatile, that's for sure. Has spammy R1s, you can range with the R2s, you can space with the R1s. Its weapon art has hyper armor. Like, what more do you want for a weapon? Just like the curved sword. We run in, we feint as we're a ballerina, we go in, we pivot, we backstab. The next one is going to be the first hit backstab. As we move up in weapon class, we move up in skill. This one is dependent on the reaction time of your opponent and how fast you maneuver with the pivot. Because if you pivot too late, you're going to get smacked in the face twice and you're not going to get the backstab. This is Froth. He's a cat. He also is an Australian, so no ping. That's great. That means I can show you backstabs with no latency. He's also a booty patriot. Put your hands on your heart and thank him for his service. With low ping, you want to be closer to your opponent. I run up, I pivot as soon as I get to his feet, he swings, I still get the trade with the backstab. Low latency momentum trades are a lot easier. You don't got to gauge as much, you don't got to predict as much, you can just kind of look where they are and match that position. You got to pivot a lot faster, but apart from that, they're a lot easier to get. Now we're coming close to the end. It's just the tips now. It's easier to practice backstabs on low latency. It's more forgiving. It's easier to get the backstab with rapiers. They have a longer lingering hitbox, or their suck box is just extended. It's a lot harder to get the backstab with ultras because the animation is a lot slower. So stick to a straight sword, dagger, or rapier. You might not get the pivot for quite some time. It'll take a while, but you'll get it. Man, this guide took a while. 11 minutes. Give yourselves a pat on the back. We went from ultra great swords all the way up to straight swords. If this video helps you any, I would appreciate a like. It means a lot to me and helps out my YouTube as well. Hopefully I see you guys out there pivot backstabbing my ass and having a good time. Take it easy everyone. See you next time.